This is Warren.
Good afternoon. I'm just trying to get into the meeting. I think it's about to let me in.
All right. Well, take your time. It's glad we could connect today. There you go. Looks like
it's okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So you're doing a screen that has your company logo and it says welcome Kay.
Yes, I can see that. Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right. Hey, well, thanks for taking a little time to talk about our CRM solution today. In fact, I've set aside about 45 minutes, which should be more than enough time. Does that amount of time work for you?
That's perfect.
All right. So let's see if we can get kind of on the same page here with regards to what we're going to cover today. I don't want to just start showing you a bunch of things without trying to a little more understand your specific use cases or business challenges that you face. I know you and I had a brief call the other day, but why don't we start by having you, first of all, tell me what was it that kind of piqued your interest in our CRM solution, and we'll go from there.
Well, a couple of the people at my company, I guess, had already spoken to you, and the thing that piqued my interest when they talked to me about it was the fact that you are, from what I understand, somehow integrated with Microsoft Outlook, which is something that we all use at this company. And if we didn't have to add just another software program, that would certainly be wonderful. I'm a little skeptical about it, but hoping that you will turn that skepticism around today. And what I really wanted to focus in on today was the reporting capabilities.
Okay, very good. And, you know, I've taken a look at your website a couple of times now, so I have a general idea as to what your business is about, financial consulting. It looks like a successful business. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
And also I see you're in Seattle, or at least you're headquartered in Seattle. That's great. We're just up the road from you guys, by the way.
Ah, okay. So we can reach out and touch you.
Yeah, there you go. You could literally drop by anytime. We're easy to reach. Happy to do that if we get to know one another or start working together. So I'm happy to focus in on reporting. I understand that's the primary focus today. But can you share with me a little bit about what, you know, specific things you want to report on? You know, I mean, just to give an example, categorically, there's kind of like three major areas of a CRM. There's contact management, you know, account management, and then sales pipeline management, and all these have reporting aspects, or all of the above. So tell me a little bit about what you're
all of the above. I mean, I think you've got some of our people that are working at the contact and company level because they're doing different types of passive and active marketing. Needless to say, we've got accounts that are already ongoing accounts where we're not necessarily trying to sell them a new service today. We're trying to maintain their business, and then we have the sales pipeline, which would of course be those cases where we are selling an additional product or service, but the majority of that, probably I'd say 90% of that, would be brand new accounts where we're selling to them for the first time. Okay. So I'd like to be able to see a sales funnel that would give me, you know, probabilities and revenues, some of the basics there, perhaps a rundown on the products and services that have been sold to them. I'd be interested in seeing how we would go back and look at everybody that we had sold a product or service to, compile a list of that so that we might be able to use that from a marketing perspective or from an analytics perspective on what we haven't done such a good job selling and why, justify whether or not that was a salesperson or the account. And then also a little bit regarding activity, you know, management. So giving some type of transparency to the manager without micromanaging each of the salespeople on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, that's great. That's really helpful. Could I ask you to just elaborate a little bit more on some of the service or financial products that your company provides?
So we might have a category, say, of insurance. Well, under insurance, that could be life insurance, disability insurance, you know, homeowner insurance. That could also, because we do both life and property casualty, but so that could be annuities. It could be a variety of things that you might go into mutual funds, and then it would break down into the type of mutual fund, whether it's a growth or an income or an international or bond fund. We might go into stock portfolios and management portfolios, and there's certain management portfolios that we use out there and others that we manage ourselves. So it's really going back and looking at everything that we've done. We also sell financial consulting by the hour. That would be something on the menu. We also do financial reviews. So there's just different ways that we would want to be able to slice and dice the products and services that are available.
Okay. All right, very good. I'm making a few notes as we go here to refer to. And tell me a little bit about your team. I've met a couple of your folks, but about how many people interact with clients and might be interacting with a system like this?
Well, almost everybody interacts with the client. So I can see almost everybody interacting with the system according, again, that revolves around, what the cost is and whether it's something that's affordable for the whole team. Because one of the things that we, as a mantra around here, is if, you work under this roof, you're in sales. So whether you're answering the phone, whether you're the receptionist when they walk in the door, whether you're somebody that's doing admin behind the scenes and sends out a communication, we're all in sales as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, and about how many people is that then?
So we've got about 30 people in the office right now. 5 of those are major RIA level, so that each of those has approximately 5 people under, 5 people underneath them. Some of those are, lower level financial planners that don't have an RIA status yet. Some of those are admin that maybe 1 or 2 are going to stay admin, and some are understudies that will hopefully get their Series 7 and become planners.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Okay. All right. And one of the things that I talked to your team about, I just wanted to confirm though that Performance Consulting Group does use Microsoft Outlook as its primary email and calendaring platform. Is that correct?
Yes, we do.
All right. Do you happen to know what is the server that you run? Is it Office 365, Exchange, or exactly what it is there?
Exchange.
Right. And tell me, how are you keeping track of all this today? What kind of systems do you have in place?
We make everybody give us reports. So they're having to go to their people, whether they're using a combination of Excel or doing it in Word. I don't care. I just know that they bring it all to me in reports.
Got it. All right.
And they all, gripe and complain about how much time they're spending just compiling reports when they could have been working with clients. So I'm sure you've heard that before.
Got it. Yes, I have hundreds of times. So let me just thank you for that very thorough background. By the way, that's refreshing to have someone who can really elucidate what they're looking to accomplish here. And I've taken a few notes, so we'll focus in on the reporting. But I would like to give you just a 45-second background on kind of who we are as a company, how we fit into the whole CRM landscape, to provide a little bit more context as we look at the demonstration. Sound like a plan?
Very good.
All right, so just briefly, our company is called Avidian Technologies, and we developed this CRM that's called Profit CRM, and it's unique in the industry, and our company is somewhat different as well. The unique thing about Profit is that it's fully embedded in Microsoft Outlook. It also has integration points with Microsoft Word and Excel throughout the program. I bring this up because most CRMs are a website. People log into a website, enter some data, but our clientele likes this idea of staying in one place. Actually, you mentioned that you basically all, it's a familiar program, Outlook, and that's kind of what the concept here is. It's been very successful. We've been selling it for 15 years. I've been with the company about 11 years. I've helped almost 1,000 companies now, evaluate and select and get started with Profit. Our company is also different in that we are unique, that we're the software developer. We also sell the product, we support it, we train you on it, we do the full implementation. So we're essentially one, single reliable partner for the CRM solution. Our clients like that because, there's really no finger pointing. So that's just another differentiation. So let me just walk through the functionality of Profit, focused in on the reports. In order to do so, though, first I just want to get you oriented. So can you see my screen change? We're now looking at my calendar.
Absolutely.
Okay, got it. So this is nothing more than my Microsoft, Outlook calendar. I'm in my weekly view here. I would like to show you a couple of things about how Profit, what it means to be embedded in Outlook before we get into the reporting. So for example, I could open up, this meeting today. If there was a record link to that, I could open it from there. In this case, I'll just use an example of this one right here. If I wanted to open a record of a client that I had an appointment with, you can see with one click I can do it. I've also got the ability here in my email to open records from clients and prospects right from my inbound email. For example, if I wanted to take a look at this opportunity associated with that particular contact, I could do that. And you can see how all I'm doing, if you look up in the upper left, it says open the linked record, and I click that button. So I'm just showing you some of the navigational points to kind of get your mind around how Profit is integrated and embedded in Outlook. But the main navigation is through a set of folders that's over here on the left. You'll see where there's a set of folders. It says Profit, CRM, Dashboards, Accounts, Contacts, and Opportunities. And that's where, to get into the CRM, you literally just click that folder. So I wanted to kind of explain the data structure before we look at the reporting, because it'll give you a better grasp of where the data is coming from. Any questions so far?
Not so far.
Okay. So I just clicked on this folder called my opportunity folder, and this is where all of your opportunity data is going to live. Now,
so how did that data get in there?
Good question. There's three different ways that data could possibly be inputted into Profit. Actually, one of them is Outlook data is just natively imported into Profit. So your contacts in Outlook are imported in automatically when you install Profit. So for example, when I click on your record and I click on your contact, you can see that this is really nothing more than the Outlook V card that I have in Outlook. See that?
Got it.
So Outlook contacts, unless they're marked private, would be automatically part of the CRM database. Profit also creates a company record as part of this. So if I click on this, you can see your company record, and the opportunity record was created, by the way, with just one click from the Outlook contact. Click, and I can create an opportunity. So Outlook is one way you can create the records and input them. You can also use the import utility from Excel. And then we have data integration that lets you connect directly to other databases. So that's how some of the ways that data is input in here. Typically, when we implement a client, the first times users see the product is fully implemented with all of their contact and prospect data in it. So I just wanted to show you the structure of this form so that when we look at reports, you'll see where the source of the data is. This we call an opportunity screen. By the way, you can make this screen any size, full screen. You can size it however you like. I like to keep mine about this size so I can see other windows. But think of this as a customizable form that will help you keep track of, in this case, your primary objective, which is keeping track of your sales funnel. So you need to know a status. Active, won, and lost are the defaults, and these will drive reports. But you can create other statuses like needs more qualification or what have you. Profit has the ability to keep track of things by what stage you're in. And this is basically the steps you go through in your sales process. In our case, we get a lead, do some qualifying, do a demonstration, maybe issue a proposal, negotiation, payment, and so on. But we would work with you
Can I ask you a quick question? Can you go back to the status? You said that active, lost, and won drive reports. None of those others could drive a report?
They absolutely can. The default fields are active, won, and lost. But if you
okay.
run a report on those others, you absolutely, yes, can do it.
Perfect. Thank you.
2 or 3 other data points to really kind of call out here. One of them would be probability, which is just the likelihood that your people think they will get this piece of business. An estimated close date, revenue, and you can state these. These are customizable labels as well. So you might have one, especially in your business, that might have estimated annual revenue, because I'm sure you get a lot of repeat business from the same clients. Would that be a correct assumption?
Correct.
Yeah, and then you might have one called initial contract revenue or whatever you choose. And then there's other data points which are held in these 3 tabs that I'm showing you right here on the right. You can actually customize the names of these tabs. And there's a total of 84 of these fields that are customizable, which also become fields that you can drive reports on. In your case, you might have a field that could very well be like your product category, so that you might have, for example, it's an insurance opportunity, it's a mutual fund opportunity, it's a life, it's hourly consulting or some other drop down of values like that. And there's a total, again, of 84 of these fields. So before I jump into the more advanced reporting, I do want to point something out, that once you have your data in Profit, And by the way, you can create different views based on filters by pretty much any criteria in the system. But I'm just going to show you an example of what I mean by creating a quick view. You could, for example, maybe filter this view, and notice it kind of looks like Excel, and that's intentional. But I could filter this view so that I only want to see prospects who have received a proposal. So out of 124 records, that narrowed it down to 25. Maybe I want to narrow this down further by, their area of interest. Maybe it's an insurance opportunity. I'll just use this as an example. So I'm just basically continuing to narrow down my view here of data points. Maybe I want to limit it to a certain region. So I'm just showing you that I'm just filtering this view. It also works like Excel in that you can sort by any column just by clicking on the column. So I just sorted by descending revenue. So I just basically created a view with 4 criteria in it, and this is going to be a report in one sense. So they're all
So
active.
does everybody have the same view?
That is permission-based. Users can create their own views, and there are default views that come with Profit. But
so we could create a view that everybody could have, a standard view.
To create standard views, yes, you can do that. And you're talking about like publishing a view out to the rest of your team?
Is that what you call it? Is that how you get everybody to have the same view? You call it publishing? So that's something we would do?
Or pushing the view out. That's something we can do during the implementation. It's not a user-controlled function, but yes, we could essentially push these views out to all your users or certain standard views as part of the implementation.
Okay.
Other questions, comments before I move on?
So if we wanted to create more standard views later, we wouldn't be able to push them ourselves. We'd have to come back to you for that.
That is correct. That is one thing that does require our professional services support on that. It's not terribly complicated or time-consuming, but that's not a user-controlled function.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. So the point that I'm getting to here is I'm basically taking data points, like in this case the stage, the type of opportunity it is, the region, or other criteria, and I've simply filtered this list down by those criteria. And so the very first report I might want to run is just with a dynamic view like this that I've just created. Notice there's a little green Excel icon up here. When I click that, you'll see that I can create an Excel report from this view, and it's going to just literally 2 clicks, and I'm now looking at that same data in Excel. Does that make sense to you?
Uh-huh.
All right. And of course, once you're in Excel, you can do all the wonderful Excel things like pivot charts and tables and graphs and so on. So this is the most basic type of report in Profit, is just the ability to take any view and export it to Excel. Any questions about that?
Do you guys give training on how to do that?
Yes, we talked briefly about this before, but we will provide a whole set of not just training, but definitely end user training, administrator training, as well as just the full implementation package of services.
Okay.
All right. So now let's kind of advance this to a little bit higher level of reporting, and let's go into what I would call traditional reports. So I just clicked on my report button, and it brings up a view of reports. Notice that in this case, there are 7 categories of reports. And I'm going to start by, what one of your main criteria was that, you basically wanted to be able to do some sales pipeline or funnel management. So I'm going into that category, and you'll see I have 6 reports here. Profit actually comes right out of the box with over 30 of these pre-formatted reports. Let me just walk you through a couple of these and see if this is along the lines of what you're thinking of when you talk about, say, running a sales funnel report. In this case, I'm using the term pipeline. You could call it funnel just as easily. But the idea here is that, first of all, I can select the criteria for this report. I can, for example, choose which of my team members I'm going to report on. Now, this does take a permission level to see other people's data. I can put in the sort of how I want it sorted, maybe by revenue descending or any of the fields in the report you can sort on. I could actually have a secondary and then a tertiary sort selection here. But let's just take it a very simple concept. I'm going to put in a date range, and this is the estimated close date between now and approximately 2 months from now. So now I'm just going to click View Report, and this will bring up a report of all of the opportunities for the people that I selected, and in this case, it's reporting it on by the sales stage that they're in. So if I zoom in here a little bit, you'll see a little bit of summary data on the top of the report. So this shows that it has 40. We have 40 opportunities in that time frame that I do. This is my data, and there's a total value of about $758,000, average deal size, and so on. And you can see the cross section of where everything's at by stage. Notice I also dropped your logo in here because there's a formatting tool, which I'll be getting into a little bit more here in a moment. But this is a very traditional report. By that I mean you can print this off. It's 8.5 by 11. By the way, it's multi-page. It's a 3-page report. You can see all the detail down below. And you can also save this in different file types. You can save it in PDF, Word, Excel format, and that way you can email it to someone, just save it as a document. That all make sense to you, Kate?
Uh-huh.
All right. So does this look kind of like along the lines of what would help you keep track of your sales funnel, in this case by value of the opportunity, by sales rep, and estimated close date and stage? Does that look?
So I'm assuming that we could run this and include more than one sales rep on a report if we wanted to.
Certainly. In fact, let me just show you that, just to demystify that a little. Now, I do want to mention, though, that when we're talking about accessing other data, I wanted to show you the hierarchy control diagram. So all access to data, of course, and including the report data, is subject to a hierarchy of access, and very granular, user by user, record by record, and you can create controls over who can access what parts of the database. For example, you might have a new person, and all you want them to do is be able to access data either that they originate through their own business development efforts or that you assign to them. At another level, maybe you want peer people to share data amongst a team of people. The higher up you go, the more access you have. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm showing you this because whenever I say you can access other people's data to report on, well, it is subject to those permission levels. But let me just go in here and add a couple of users. So you saw that I had 40 opportunities when I had just my name selected. In this case,
correct.
Now you can see I have 140, and there's $1.4 million worth of revenue in the pipeline. And as you go through this, you can see the different sales users as listed here.
Okay.
There you go. So that's a very straightforward and simple report. And you mentioned tracking activity and also maybe doing some forecasting. So before I move farther off the sales funnel, there's another concept in profit. You remember when we looked at the probability setting where a user could, associate a probability with an opportunity, 20, 30%?
Correct.
For that, yeah. Well, that can be used actually in these reports to create what I call a weighted forecast, which includes a couple of filters and a calculation or two. So in this one, you can see it's called a forecast adjusted for probability. Let me zoom in a bit. There's some summary data on top, but in this case, it's filtered for stage 5 or higher. The concept being that, at least in our business, we don't want to actually do a revenue forecast of someone who's never been even sent a proposal, but that would be up to you.
Now, would we also be able to add the formula of the percentage of margin that we're charging them or the percentage of fees that we're charging them for asset under management? And I mean, I guess, can we further customize this report?
I will show you exactly what you can do with the out-of-box reports, but what you just referred to would probably require a custom report. I'm making a note to come back to that to explain how that would work. Is that okay?
Terrific. Thank you.
Okay. There's quite a lot of flexibility in here, but in any case, this is one of the standard reports that basically just aggregates all of the opportunities in a particular time range or filtered by certain criteria like stage, and it calculates the weighted forecast based on the collective probability. So this is one that you can use more as a revenue forecast, not just a pipeline report. You can see that each deal has a different probability, and in this case, they're either at stage 5 or 6. At the top, there's some summary data, and here's the whole list of them.
Okay.
So you mentioned that you also wanted to be able to track activity. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that as to, what type of activity that you would want to track?
Phone calls, first appointments, portfolio review appointments, networking appointments. That's just to name a few.
Okay, got it. So let me go back briefly to the source of this data that I'm going to show you this report on. So activity can be captured in Profit simply by customizing this activity drop-down list. It's really simple, very straightforward. And for example, here's phone call. I could put in a note, that's a phone call. We have a very similar thing right in our version of Profit, which is, prospect first engaged. That would be your first appointment. You could have one called a networking appointment or any other criteria like that, and those become reportable fields. So let me show you an example of what they would look like. Now, would you be also interested in seeing the notes from those, like the appointments and phone calls in a report? Would that be
yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to go back, and now that we've seen kind of where this data is coming from, I'll show you one of those types of reports. So this is one of the, basically a default activity report, but it lets you do sorting by any of the criteria in the report. In this case, I'll do an activity. Let's just sort it by activity in an ascending manner, but you could sort it by any criteria. I'll put in a date range. Of course, it's activity, so it was in the past. Now I'm just going to click View Report, and you'll see that this will bring up an activity report. And this particular report includes those notes. So you can see in here, let me kind of walk through this with you. This showed in the past, 15 days that this group of people has had 476 total activities. And you'll see it's laid out in this particular instance of the customer name, the sales rep, the potential revenue, if known, the date of the activity, and the type of activity. In fact, if I zoom in on that, you can see here's a note that I put in just today. Spoke with Bill to confirm he got the DocuSign. He said he would call me with any questions, and that was a phone call. Now, as I go down through this, you'll see other types of entries, left voicemail, left a message for Mike regarding the proposal review, and so forth. And these are those customizable drop-downs that I was showing you. So where it says left a voicemail, this could be, and I already showed you made a phone call, but first appointment, networking event, portfolio review, those could all be specific customizable activities.
Okay, and where is that activity summarized? So if I wanted to see how many left voicemails Warren did this week.
Mm-hmm. Well, for summary data, the best place to go, I'll just jump there for a moment, is to go into your dashboards. Over here on the left, there's a folder called dashboards, and one of those dashboards is activity. So on the right in this dashboard, you will see the different activity types. So if I wanted to see, for example, first appointment scheduled, I just click on that activity. As you mouse over it, you can actually see the activity. Notice I can change the date range on the fly in the last 7 days, 30 days, 90 days, and so on. So you can see that when I mouse over it, that's those activities. So this could be your first appointment. This could be networking events, all of any of the above. So
okay.
Clear enough?
Uh-huh.
Okay. I'm going to go back, though, to the traditional reports. Well, let me just ask you, though, before we move on. So I want to make sure I'm covering the ground. In terms of reporting, we've looked at a couple of different views of a pipeline and a forecast. Did you have any questions on those so far?
Well, I'm just curious as to, so you're saying that when I asked you about customizing some of the reports, the traditional reports, if we want to change or add different factors to those, you said you were going to come back to that. So I'm waiting for that explanation. And then you came here and I see a tab that says customize dashboard. So is this where we can customize the things we want to see?
No, but here's, let me give you let's just jump into the custom reports discussion here. So first of all, in Profit, you can export data to an Excel spreadsheet and do any kind of analysis that you want. You're clear on that. I know that's a simple concept, but are you clear on the fact that you can export this into Excel and add, fields for calculations and so forth? But I can tell that what you would be looking for is more of a, a pre-made report, right? That you could just run at any time. Is that correct?
Correct.
So one way to do that is, if you like working in Excel, is through a custom Power Query report. Power Query is an enhancement to Excel that lets you generate some very complex reports and calculations and pretty much anything you can imagine in terms of combinations of data through a Power Query report. We do charge for that. That's not a free service. So we can develop Excel Power Query reports. bottom line is if it's in profit, we can create reports on it. So that's one way to generate a report.
And what do those tend to run? Just a general range per report?
Well, our professional services cost for including report design costs $250 an hour. I find that the average, with my clients, the average cost has ranged anywhere from about $750 to $1,200 per report.
Okay.
To develop. Now, once you've got it, you can distribute it to all of your users, and it's unlimited uses of that report. You can run it at any time.
Okay.
So another approach to developing a custom report is using creating a custom dashboard. I do want to point out that you could buy the software that would allow you to create your own custom dashboards. Quite expensive. Well, actually, I'll just tell you about what it would cost. It's about $15,000 to buy the program that would allow you to create your own custom dashboards. However, we can create these dashboards for that same price range. We can create custom dashboards with a whole library of different imagery, and any of the data points that are in profit can be reported on, and this would be, again, in that range for about $750 to $1,200 per report, in this case, a dashboard style report. So that's what would be required to specifically do what you're asking about, calculating margin, for example.
Okay.
For your opportunity pipeline. All right. So let's continue on the reports, and I just want to make sure that I'm covering all of the ground here. And I'm just going to kind of walk through the dashboards from left to right here. So, and I just want to see if any of this would be relevant to your business. How about forecasting your opportunity pipeline? Is that something that would be of help to you?
Absolutely. And could we break that down by product?
No.
Okay.
This out of the box. This is based on opportunity, and it's not filtered by product type.
Okay.
You seem like you'd be a good candidate for a couple of custom reports, by the way.
Okay.
But having said that, yes, that would be a good example of a custom report where you could do a forecast by product. Absolutely. But
so there's no product reporting anywhere in profit?
At this time, the short answer is no.
Okay.
Not without doing a custom report.
Okay.
But I understand that that's important to you, and it's not lost on me. I'm making a note of that. So, but just visualize this as a sales forecast by product. That's kind of the concept here. And you would be able to filter the forecast by product by having a set of filters, like over here on the left where I have by department, by user, by company. You would have a filter that said by product. And you can, as you can see, you can kind of check these boxes off. So for example, if I type in another, in this case it might be product, you can see how that would change the numbers. By the way, you can turn probability on and off through this little switch here so that you can see the gross revenue and the adjusted for probability.
Okay.
All right. So assuming you wanted, and we were able to get you a report that was forecast by product, do you have any other comments, questions, concerns about this particular dashboard report?
No, got it.
All right. I sense a little hesitancy there. Are we tracking? How are we tracking just overall on this? Is this something that, at least so far, you think could work out for you? Maybe, maybe not.
Oh, I mean, I'm just looking to see what you got, and then, you know, trying to do a mental comparison to what we need, and then start to ascertain between what you've got out of the box and what we would have to pay extra, you know, kind of starting to get a feel for what this is going to run us. So we'll have that conversation towards the end, but I'm still interested in seeing the rest of these tabs: the activity, the stage, the wins, the filters up at the top.
Yep. Okay, great. So the next one over in the pipeline is it gives you the look at the pipeline value by stage and by month. So in this view, when I mouse over these different selections, like here on this turquoise color, you'll see I moused over and it shows I have $118,000 in proposal revenue that's adjusted for probability in the month of May. In June, I have $71,577. and proposal revenue. And by the way, this very closely matches our normal sales cycle, which is usually anywhere from 30 to 90 days. So you can see our proposal revenue is basically reflective of that. Now, if I wanted to change this, notice over here on the right, these are my selections where I'm circling my cursor. If I only wanted to look at proposal stage revenue in my pipeline, I could just click on that setting, that proposal setting. And now you can see it's just showing only the proposal value.
Can I print that screen?
You actually can print that screen. You right click and you say print, and it brings up a view to print.
Okay, I like that.
You can also, by the way, just sort of a similar concept is you can say you want to export, send that to an Excel spreadsheet. The data is also, by the way, in a little table down here, just if you ever wanted to look at that. So below each of these charts is a little table of the data that it's displaying.
So is that what it sends to Excel, the table?
It sends that table that you're, and it's whatever view you're in. Like if I have a multi-stage view, you can see that that table has changed with all the different stages in it. Yes, that is the data that it sends to Excel. Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess what I was asking is if you right-click and you say you want it to go to Excel, is it sending both the graph and the table data?
No, just the table data. You cannot. You cannot export the graph.
But you can print it.
But you can print it. Now,
Okay.
having said that, everyone has a a screen grabber like this. I could just take that there. Now,
Right.
Exported, if you will.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I like that. That's a lot of versatility.
All right. So, by the way, you don't have to just select one value. I could select these three values. Notice, see my cursor over here on the right, how I'm selecting in this stage, in this case, this first three stages. So when I let go of my mouse, you'll see that now it's just showing those three stages.
And how do you go back to all of them again?
It's the back.
Okay. Okay.
Or clear filter.
Okay.
So that's the pipeline value by stage. Now you can change the date range. Up here on the right, I want to make sure I explain this. When we say this is a dynamic dashboard, there's two reasons for that. One is that I can change the date range on the fly. I can put in, month, quarter, year, or any custom date range, and I can change the filter settings, in this case, either by company or by department over here on the left.
Can you scroll down? Can I see it further down there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so status is there too. And I could choose a company. If a company had more than one project, would all of their projects be brought into this one?
It would, yes. And if you wanted to look at it by company, like I could click on that company, and that will show only in this case, they have $3,892 of forecast revenue for the month.
Okay.
And again, the back button, let's go back to your previous view. Now the third, are we clear on that? Is that all?
Yep.
Are we clear? Okay.
Like it.
All right. Like it. Okay, good. Yay, like it. All right, so users is another view. So this shows, again, for whatever time frame you selected, this shows their closed or successfully won opportunities and their open opportunities. And notice, too, that I can turn the probability on and off. So see how that changes fairly dramatically based on the probability? I'll turn it on. So the idea here is that you can start to track both, closed revenue and open opportunity revenue as well. And you can compare different users. Does that sound like it might be useful in terms of keeping an eye on your team?
I don't know how many people would use it, but when I'm fiddling, that could be fun.
Well, I'm not sure all of your users would be deep into the reports, but the data that this report is coming from is what the people are inputting into profit. So in essence, they're contributing to this by entering their opportunity.
So how current is that data?
The dashboards are snapshot once a night.
Oh, once a night. Okay.
So we're ready to move on to the activity dashboard.
Yes.
Correct? I'm going to start here on the left. First note, I can clear the selection so that I'm just looking at raw data. And I'm going to start on the tab called efficiency. It's really nothing more than a graph of all activity over time. I personally just don't find that much use in this particular graph, so I don't spend a whole lot of time in it. But the next one over is extremely interesting. My clients tell me that this is perhaps one of the most interesting dashboards in the whole system. And the reason is it shows how many activities it takes to close the deal. So what Profit is doing here is it's displaying all of the, in this case, opportunities that were closed successfully in the last 30 days. I can change that date range. Remember the filters up there. So these are all opportunities that have closed in the last 30 days, and it's showing me that it takes an average of 78 activities to close those deals from start to finish, from lead to close. Seems like a pretty large amount, and it is, but a lot of that's actually automated activity. So over here on the right, these are the activity tracking entries. If I just selected, the top half a dozen activities, that would be the kind of the ones that the salespeople actually drive, and you can see how it changes that.
Do that one more time.
Okay, so I'm over here on my activity. Here's the unfiltered view. In fact, let me just filter it down to one department, pure unfiltered view. Okay, so I'm looking at only one team. There's, let's say, 80 activities total. And on the right here, these are the activities, including all the automated things like in Profit. We discussed earlier how Profit can track emails and appointments that are linked to clients automatically. There's group emails and things like that. But if I just take the top 7 activities, which are the most common activities that salespeople can actually drive, left a voicemail, made a phone call, scheduled an appointment, conducted a demonstration, what have you. This is how many of those activities it takes to close business, 12 in this case. Now that number can change a little over time, but it tends to hover right around there. 90-day average was 9. So this last month, the deals we closed took a little more effort. But do you see the distinction I'm making between
Yes.
looking at the automated activities versus yeah, okay. Now, the question is, so what? This is interesting, but the question is, how can you use this data? Well, one of the ways that our clients have found that they can make great use of this is to basically, when they're looking at their sales process and trying to drive certain activity in the sales process during the sales cycle, that this tells them exactly how many of what types of activity they need to drive. For example, maybe you want to know how many appointments it takes to successfully close a deal with a given client. So I'm going to go over here on the right, and I'm going to click the appointment scheduled. This will tell me how many appointments, on an average, that my sales reps need to be booking with the client, in this case, 4. Can you see how that might be valuable to your team or to your managing of the team?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any idea of how many appointments, for example, it currently takes to successfully close business?
No, I don't. So that would be valuable.
Yeah. Similarly, you can look at phone activity, and I could select just phone call, or I could add voicemail into that, which I'll just do for the sake of argument. And by the way, what I'm doing right now is I'm using the control key and clicking 2 items to select only those 2 functions. So in this case, I'm showing how many phone calls, how much phone activity it took to close business. So now we're starting to get a picture of how many phone calls, how many meetings, how many proposals, and et cetera, that it takes to close new business, so we can design that back into our workflow.
But how can we export that to a report? That's my question. So if you click on those 2 and then you go down to those tables, you're saying in the tables it's going to show that, and I could export that to Excel.
Yeah, I can export that table to Excel, and the charts don't come with it. It's just the way it is.
Okay.
Now, but we've already discussed, and I could tell that you have a lot of very important and specific requirements. So if we get that far, and I'm create a proposal for you, I'm definitely going to include some custom reports. We can drill into that in a little more detail at that time.
Perfect.
It's not uncommon to have some amount of the budget go towards customization with the CRM. Perhaps you've heard that or learned that from other colleagues of yours. All right. Are we ready to move to the real fun one, the activity report by sales reps? We looked at that a little bit, but I wanted to drill into that a bit more. All right. So the main concept here is, again, these filters on the left, and I'm going to just start adding some filters adding some departments over here. I just clicked account management to add that group. Okay, now I'm going to clear out the selections from the start kind of at the very top. You see where my cursor is, where it says
Yes.
account sales, and then I'm adding account management, and then I'm adding client services and the little green check marks up here. This is what allows me to select which department or group of people I'm looking at. Again, I can so the new concept where I'm showing you is you can select different departmental people. Is your company organized, by the way, in terms of like product vertical, like insurance, stock portfolios?
No. Where everybody sells everything. Each of the main RIAs can sell everything.
Right, which actually, and I could see why then, so that whole reporting by product line would be so important to you. So you just use your imagination just a little bit, and then instead of having these labels, this would say, insurance. This would say stock. This would say hourly consulting. Does that make sense? And then you can look at that data in that way. So in this case, another thing that you can do down here is you can look at this by account. So on the lower left here, you'll see that there's some filters that I can go in and look at all the activity for a specific company. And you can just search for a company. So for example, I'll show you a company. I'll just do a quick company search here, and we'll look up one of my companies that I'm working with. See that one on Rory Reagan, and I'm going to select that. This shows all of the activity in the last 30 days with Rory Reagan, in this case 86 activities. I want to see how many of each type of activity, mouse over or select that button. Pretty cool, huh?
With the control key.
In this case, control key if I wanted to select two non-adjacent settings here. I could use just a select if I want to select adjacent values. See that?
Oh, okay.
So if I do control click, maybe I want to see appointments scheduled and proposals sent. I control click because they're not adjacent, and that will show me.
And if you just wanted to see one of them, you would just click on one of them?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Nice
So
rainbow.
that's looking at, yeah. All right, now in the state, are we ready to move on? Any other questions before I move on? Okay. So what do you think of the reporting so far? If you had to kind of, I'm just trying to get a read on it. Assuming that we were able to and will meet your budget for some custom reporting, does this all look user-friendly enough? Give me some feedback.
Well, yeah, because there's only 6 of us that would be using this area. So I think that they could definitely do this, but yeah, there would definitely have to be some customizations done.
Well, and we still have to get through the budget discussion. We've talked broad brush about it, but we'll get into that in due course. So I've moved on to this next tab, and it's called the Stage tab, and it has within it a lot of things having to do with stage, conversion rates by stage, and sales rep, and so on. But one of the valuable things here is the ability to monitor and report on the length of the sales cycle. So I'm going to go back to the group that I work with over here on the left, and I'm just going to clear the rest of the departments out for the moment. And I'm going to explain sales cycle. So it might be obvious, but the sales cycle is how long it takes to go from a newly created opportunity to a successfully closed opportunity. Is that clear, what we're looking at here?
No, I got it.
All right. Now, I'm going to put in a 12-month average. So I'm looking at, in this case, the team of people called Avidian Sales. And the 12-month average here is 117 days. Now, you notice that does change if I change the time period I'm looking at. They're actually very relevant. So we're averaging 55 days over the last 90 days. But I like to look at a year. It just gives me a better average. So what this shows me is very interesting because it shows me by month not only what the total sales cycle is, but if I mouse over or click on one of these, you can see, for example, in the month of March, just last month, the one that stuck out to me is this yellow one, and guess what? That's the awaiting payment stage. It took an average of 50 days in that month to get payment. So, of course, that affected our sales cycle because we don't declare it a sale until we get the payment. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I could even go in here and forensically look at maybe I want to compare March, April, and May and just kind of get a little more granularity on those. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm just going to select them with my cursor there. And this will show March, April, and May sales cycle, 55 days. Maybe I want to kind of look into that, how many days we're in each of these stages and so forth. The point of understanding your sales cycle isn't so much just for the heck of it, it's interesting. So what's the value? Well, the value is what you can start to do is understand things that might have to do with compressing your sales cycle. So let's say I wanted to compare the sales cycle of a rep, and I'll just use myself to the team average of 117 days. I'm just going to click my name. So in this case, let's see what Warren's sales cycle is. Well, his is 70 days. Interesting. That might be interesting to study. What happened here, right? Here's a month where I had my lead stage average 59 days. That's a really long time. Maybe I want to work on that. So can you kind of see how this will help you understand not only your sales cycle, but maybe some of the things that are contributing to the length of your sales cycle?
Certainly.
Okay. And, I don't want to take anything for granted. So is this whole idea of sales cycle in your business something you ever think about? I mean, would it be nice to compress the sales cycle, make it shorter?
Certainly in the beginning. I mean, once we've got a client, everything else falls into place. So I'd be interested in looking at it just to see if there was any big variables. I don't understand completely how this is impacted. Like if I was trying to say, okay, we didn't bring in a lot of new accounts in June, and that's because everybody's gone on vacation, nobody's interested in financial planning. I mean, I'm trying to get a feel here. You've got sales cycle. I'm trying to get a feel for how is this indicative of the trends according to the time of year for new accounts?
Well, actually, you can see that right in this graph. So I'm glad you asked that question, because in this case, the sales cycle is, in fact, the two highest points are April and July, April, May, and July. So those are right in the spring months. I think you hit the nail on the head. Spring break affects us all. Maybe tax season, right? Now, I can't say in your business with 100% certainty that that's the case, but you can certainly look at seasonal averages on the sales cycle. It's right here in front of us. I think that's pretty awesome. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Okay.
But it's just one of many data points. What I found is there's no one silver bullet, no one data point that you can look at in your business and say, if I fix that, life is good forever, right? It's a variety of things, which brings us to the conversion by stage. I'm kind of skipping sales cycle by rep because we talked about that. But conversion by stage, now this is an interesting thing because it can tell you basically how well your team is progressing through the sales process and also where you might be getting hung up, either by individual or as a team. So what this chart is showing us is the conversion from one stage to the next. So this is basically telling me that this team gets a 92% of the leads that they get are contacted. So we have a penetration rate of 92% with leads. The other 8% we never make a contact with. And the reason I know that is because in our case, to move it to stage 2 is defined by we've made contact with the lead. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
And then we do go into this qualifying stage. Well, but before I move on from that, think about that. In fact, let me share something with you. I want to, if you don't mind me sidebarring, I want to underscore something here. The reason that's important and interesting and relevant is that Harvard Business Review did a recent study. This was just last year, and they were studying lead generation and a follow-up. And here's what they found. They found that of all the billions and billions of dollars spent on lead generation, 30% of the leads are never contacted at all. Oh my gosh, can you believe that? That's what they found. In other words, they were losing 30% of the revenue or the money they spent on leads, just throwing it down in the trash can. And the reason, by the way, most reps give up too soon. Not that they don't try at all, but here's what this study found is that it took an average, I'm digressing a little bit, but it takes an average of 6 attempts to get a 90% connect rate with leads. In any event, that connect rate is what we're talking about, contacting the lead. So industry standards is that about 70% connect rate or conversion rate from a raw lead to being contacted. I know I might be a little confusing on that, but does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
So are you trying to say that the CRM can help drive those first 6 touches to increase the revenue of lead conversion to an appointment?
That's exactly what it means. And not only that, yes, that is true, but also the total number of touches in the sales cycle can be driven by our workflow automation. Now that will be a subject for a different discussion, but when we were talking about the activities that it takes to close business, I'm just going to go back to that for a moment. This one right here, activities to close. This is absolutely that category of driving activity to increase your conversion rate at each stage and ultimately to get to the end and close the deal. So the point here is that the conversion by stage gives you some interesting metrics. You ever wonder, for example, what's your conversion rate of proposals that you send out? So I'll just go on that. You can see that we have as a team a 43% conversion rate of proposals. In other words, for every proposal we send out, we get 43% of them signed as contracts, and so on.
Okay.
Pretty awesome. And then finally, you can look at conversion rates by your individual reps. So I'm going to, let's just look at, well, let me change this to a team view for the moment. So I'm going to look at that team of people again, and I'll look at a 6-month average. So you can see that the 6-month conversion rate, so this is the win ratio, if you will, for opportunities, and it's by sales rep. So if I click on a name, you can see what that person's win ratio is. That person's at 5%. You know, someone's at 6, someone's at 7. And you were talking about, and I just want to make sure you're resonating with this, you know, putting in some systems that help you monitor your funnel and the success rate of your salespeople. So does that seem like it addresses that need?
Yes, it does. I appreciate that.
Cool. Make more money. And then the final screen here, and then we have to wrap up here in just a couple minutes, according to your schedule and mine. This is a view that shows you booked versus goal. So let me get you kind of oriented here. So this is the gray area. I'm just looking at trailing 30 days. You can look at the last 30 days or custom date range or any date range that you want. But in this case, the last 30 days, the trailing 30 days, you can see mousing over that this person closed $47,995 in revenue. Their goal was 66, and this person closed 23. Their goal was 66. You can change this to a 90-day window or a 12-month window or any window thereof, and you can start to see basically performance versus goal. And that's kind of the main metric that most of my clients have said that they wanted to look at least from a salesperson perspective. Book versus goal. So that kind of wraps up the reporting discussion. In the last few minutes here, first of all, I just wanted to see if there's any other questions on your mind about any of this. And
well, what was that? We didn't cover that tab that said filters on it. Is there nothing in that?
Oh, nothing of relevance. It just shows you for the different dashboards what has been filtered on. It's not really.
Okay. All right. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So overall impressions, how would you rate this according to what you're looking for?
I like it. I just like to get a feel for the cost.
Okay. Other than cost, do you have any other concerns that you can think of?
Well, one thing was your ability to integrate with other database systems, because obviously we've got other systems that are giving us pricing on stocks and bonds and portfolios and insurance premiums and that type of thing. So we have multiple databases. It would be nice to know if we could automatically be able to pull some of that data into this system and then use some of those customized dashboards to incorporate not only data that originated here in this program, but that came from others.
Okay. So let me propose the following, that first of all, the integration will require a discovery call, so we can get that on the calendar. And for that, you would want at least one or two of your main business process owners and anyone that's familiar with the systems we're going to be integrating with. Is that something we could possibly set up in the next, I don't know, few days or week?
Yeah, I can check people's calendars and get back to you on that with some possibilities.
Let's make that an action item, is to get that scheduled. And when it comes to the cost, I can actually give you, now that we've had this discussion, a very accurate cost proposal subject to whatever we decide to do with integration, and I can get that prepared, and perhaps we can have either the same call or a subsequent call. We can review that proposal. Sound good?
Uh-huh.
All right, so I'll go ahead and put some times out there that work from our end, and maybe you could coordinate from your end, and we'll get that scheduled, and look forward to taking the next step in the process.
Very good. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right. Hey, likewise. Appreciate your time. You have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.